if you see this image through a camera, you can compute where the camera is relative to that image. After you know where the camera is, it's really simple to just take a 3D object and put it there. So the only thing that you actually need to do AR is to know where the actual live camera is related to an object, and that's it. It seems easy. When I was in college, we did the math for all of this, and it's not that simple. So that's why when I came back to the industry and I saw things like Vuforia and Metaio and many other SDKs, I was overwhelmed. People had gone through various lengths to do this very, very easy. So this is what an AR system looks like. Basically, you have trackers, which are images. They can be objects, 3D objects, but that's a bit more complex. So you take images like a T-shirt or a piece of paper or whatever, and you superimpose a 3D object to it. The image is called a tracker, and the model is just a model. If you want to do it for many things, you can have many trackers and many models, and you can either store them locally or in a cloud. I think that's quite easy to grasp. And this is where the complication arises. There are many, many frameworks available. Frankly, if you just look on Google, there are at least 10 which seem to be really used and widespread. And we had a client, we hadn't done AR before. I had studied it in college. I had a very deep 3D knowledge and understanding. I knew the math behind it. So I said, let's do it, why not? So we went with Vuforia because it's the first one on Google. That's the only reason. And we took it and we downloaded it, and it was really easy to implement. And then the horror starts because our client wanted more and more. At first, they had a magazine. They wanted to have a 3D object on the cover. No issues there. Then they wanted to have 6 more objects inside the magazine. No issues there either. And then they wanted the 3D models to come from a server. We built a server, we put the models there, downloaded it in real time, no problems there. Then they wanted 100 new pages each month for every new magazine and to keep the old ones in storage. Now, as you can imagine, a 3D model is not cheap to download. So it's about 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 megabytes. So all of this was becoming quite hefty. And then they said that they don't want to pay for each reco because Vuforia actually taxes you per reco after a certain limit. And we hit a wall. We didn't have the money to finance them. The money they were paying us was actually less than what we were paying Vuforia to use their service because we didn't know that we would get there. And we had to break the deal. And that was awful for us and for our client as well. And basically, we didn't know where Vuforia stopped. We didn't know what they could do. We just were happy-go-lucky that we could make an app in 2 days and it would work. And actually, all of the SDKs that are on the market have such limitations if you know where to look for them. Also, there are open source options that you can explore. And frankly, with our programming know-how, there was absolutely no reason not to go for one of those. So the gist of my presentation is in the next three slides. I took 3 of these, which are all of the SDKs that are with really high hits on Google, and I analyzed them, what they do for you and what they don't. The main thing to take from this slide, which is just a huge table, is that everything costs. If you take a freemium model, it seems freemium, it's not. All of them are paid in some way or another. You can't just go with a free model, whatever you do. If you actually want to output an AR app or a game that has a few users, maybe even more than 100, you will get to actually paying for that service. And it's really important to compute how much you can afford to pay. We couldn't. And actually, 1 cent per reco, which is just 1 cent to point your phone at one tracker, is a lot. If one user just does 10 of these and then doesn't buy anything in your app, you're screwed. So don't do that. There are services which actually are cheaper, like this one, or more expensive, like this one, or on an yearly basis. Maybe this would work for you. What's really important is that all of them cost something, except this one. This one is based on OpenCV. For people who don't know, OpenCV is an open source library of AR and VR related things that is actually been in development for, I think, a couple of decades. And people keep adding to it, and it's really powerful and strong. Only to use it, you need to have some background. It's not scary big, but it's big. So I understand why some newbie like me would just want to go with something that works out of the box. So keep in mind, it really, even if it says that it's free, it's not. Even this one, which is free, it has a huge watermark on it. You'll only find out after you download it. Most of these say free in dev. Free in dev means that the limitations are so great that you can barely test it in your studio. You can reach the limitations imposed on you just by testing it in your studio, never mind really getting it out there to your users. All right, so I took these three. I took Vuforia because we already used it, and it's really strong, and people love it. I took Wikitude because it's the cheapest. We'll find out why soon enough. And I took AR Toolkit because I wanted to find out if I could have done what I tried to do with Vuforia with something completely free. Open source, no hassle attached. So these are the study conditions. I took a Superman marker and the Batman model because I don't like comic books. And Unity 3D on a couch, actually. And I just wanted to see how they would work together. This is Vuforia. Vuforia takes you to a really complex licensing process. You have to copy a few strings from there to here in Unity and tick a lot of boxes that are not obvious. Unless you tick all of the boxes, it just won't work. I had this course in college where I taught a few students to use Vuforia, and 10 out of 20 wouldn't tick one of the boxes, even though it said so specifically in the tutorial. That's how obscure it is. And with a few clicks, it just works. And this is the Superman, and this is the Superman logo, and this is Batman superimposed over it. It's Vuforia. It's the strongest one, the most powerful, and it still flickers from now and then. Oh, that didn't go so well. So generally, it works. It's stable, but not that stable, and you can see that they have a few things to actually work on before it will really work in all conditions. So this was Vuforia. It took about 20 minutes. The package is 50 megs, which is standard. No issues there. So if you want to impress someone, you can use Vuforia. No issues there. Just don't expect to use it in an official capacity without paying for it, and it's quite expensive. Wikitude, it's a lot cheaper. They have this huge watermark on it. I didn't want to pay for it because really, why? It's a lot simpler to use. You just one license, you copy paste it. It comes with a debug one, which you can use. It was a lot faster. And this is the actual result. It flickers a bit more. Frankly, it costs 10 times less. So it doesn't work 10 times worse. I think it's not even 2 times worse. So that's Batman on the Superman logo again. So yeah, it works. And on to AR Toolkit. AR Toolkit brings us back to old command line, because all of the actual programs in the AR Toolkit are command-based. They work on Windows, Linux, Mac, whatever you have. And you have to generate the actual trackers by hand, which is not a hassle at all. It took me 2 minutes. No issues there. It actually took me less to do this on my laptop than Wikitude did on their servers, because the images have to be converted to those feature points I was telling you about. And then Unity, they have a Unity package. It's really small in comparison. They have an actual tutorial, which works. No license, so no issues with pasting strings and whatnot. Just drag and drop the files, and this is it. This is completely free and open source. And it's not as good as Vuforia is, and it has bugs. But frankly, you can do whatever the hell you want with it. And if you want to have a server that has a billion 3D models on it, you can do that. And if you want to do this processing on an actual server, they have a server version for this. So you can only stream your camera to the server, for example, and you can do it for you. And they can do it for you. Yep, it lost it. And now it found it again. All right, so this is completely free, but it has bugs. Now, had I known all of this before actually signing in with a client to do stuff for them, I would have known that what they wanted was actually not possible using a paid solution. unless they were willing to just output hundreds of dollars, maybe thousands of dollars every month just to do cloud recos on Vuforia, which frankly I don't think in today's world actually gives back 1 cent per reco. If you can do that, maybe you have Nintendo behind you or stuff like that. For a regular non-franchised app, I don't think that's quite possible yet. So, for very brief conclusions, if you go to a turnkey solution, they do work out of the box. They have severe limitations and they usually cost a lot. If you go for something you build yourself, it's open source, you can always modify it. People are working on it. I don't really like open source software usually because it just doesn't work in so many cases, particular cases that you would need. But I think in this case, AR open source solutions are really top of the line, and you can use them in whatever app you choose to, without having to go by the whims of huge SDKs, which frankly, we were priced by Vuforia, and we were priced monthly. And the invoice numbers increased by, I think, a few hundred. So that would mean that they have only a few hundred clients that they bill on a monthly basis. Now, this company was sold, I don't know who bought it, was sold by Qualcomm for $64 million. And they only bill a few hundred clients monthly. So I'm not sure that's actually a working model. And that was it. Many thanks for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Were your clients providing the 3D models? Or
yes. No, they were providing the 3D model. They were very particular about what 3D models they would want, and they had third-party deals with those companies who would provide 3D models. That's another cost. Usually they would ask for them for free because they considered it advertising, but you would have to pay for those as well. Yes.
What kind of licensing model do the open source code have?
None. Oh, it is GPL. It is GPL. So OpenCV is in fact GPL. AR Toolkit is GPL as well, but you can use it in a commercial capacity without actually paying them anything with the attribution model. So it has to be based on AR Toolkit, which I think is really fine.
So do you see yourself doing this independently, like because right now you're providing the service?
Yes.
So do you see yourself like going on your own in a couple of years or whatnot?
Frankly, yes. I think if some of our clients were really particular about what they wanted, and I think we could convert that into a framework that we would use, maybe sell to others. But yes, actually, I think that building a solution such as Vuforia or Metaio or Wikitude from scratch is not something that 5 people in 6 months couldn't do, based on how strong OpenCV is and on the fact that you can actually modify it, and if you get a couple of guys who actually know their stuff around 3D and geometry and stuff like that, I think you can improve upon it, especially if you know what markers to optimize for, if you know what your clients will actually provide.
do you have any plans for the future? I could see this working really well in, let's say, tourism. Go to a trademark and you can use your phone and see different kind of models.
Well, right now we're on a per client basis, so we do custom stuff for people who want it. Our previous client were actually doing a hardware launch. They were launching a new hardware product, and they wanted to show each of their previous products in AR on top of a timeline. And that went great, and that was their idea, not ours, and we thought it was really cool. So for now, we're just gonna focus on what people want, and we're just gonna build the stuff that makes it happen.
How big is the market for AR? Are you finding clients easily?
Yes, it's huge. The market for AR is absolutely huge. It's a gimmick. People love it. People love it in these settings. For example, if we had something like this outside with, I don't know, like a character from Tomb Raider spinning, everyone would flock around to just take pictures with that. And I think it's a gimmick. It's really cheap to build. So all of this, it said 20 minutes, 30 minutes. That's not actual time, development time. 30 minutes is nothing. So in a week's time, you could do something very nice for such a presentation at a low cost. So yes, the market is absolutely huge. Well, many thanks then, and on to the next one.